When I was asked to leave my childhood home to make room for my parents' perfect, adopted daughter, I had a choice: quietly walk away or make them beg me to stay. I chose the latter, and it changed everything. After finishing college, I decided to stay at home. It made sense. I could save money on rent, and I had a stable job at a marketing firm, earning enough to live comfortably but not quite enough to afford my own place just yet. I paid a third of the mortgage, helped with the bills, and did the yard work on weekends. We had a routine where I cooked dinner 3 nights a week, and the rest of the time my parents handled it. Weekends were for takeout and movie nights together. It was really nice, actually. That all changed when my aunt died in a car accident. My parents decided to adopt my 16-year-old cousin, Gabby. At first, I was all for it. Gabby needed a family, and I thought it would be fun to have another person around. She moved in, and I helped her decorate her room, took her shopping for school supplies, and even gave her my old laptop for homework. The first month was fine. She was quiet and stayed in her room most of the time. But then, one night at dinner, Gabby mentioned that she had always gotten straight A's at her old school, and my dad's face lit up. See, I was never the academic type. I mostly got B's and C's, went to a state school, nothing special, but I had a decent job at a marketing firm, and I was doing okay. After that dinner, my dad started comparing everything. Gabby helped with the dishes without being asked, while I apparently never did anything. Gabby was studying for her SATs, while I wasted time playing games after work. Gabby wanted to be a doctor, while I was just doing marketing. My mom jumped on the bandwagon, too, talking about how Gabby was going places and how proud they were to have such an ambitious daughter. One morning, Gabby made breakfast for everyone, and my dad literally said it was nice to finally have a daughter who could cook. I had been cooking for them 3 nights a week for the past 2 years. Then came the big conversation. My parents sat me down and said they thought it would be best if I found my own place. They said Gabby needed stability and having me there was confusing for her adjustment. They gave me 30 days to move out. My dad said Gabby needed my room because it was bigger, and she had so much studying to do. They actually thought I would just accept this and leave quietly. I asked them about the rent I had been paying, and they said that was just helping family, not real rent, so I wasn't a tenant. They said they'd help me find an apartment and even offered to cover my security deposit. As if that would make it better. The next day, I went to work and told my boss I needed to work from home due to a family emergency. She was cool with it since I'd been there for 3 years and never asked for anything. Then, I started my plan. First, I stopped paying for anything. When the internet bill came due, I let it lapse. My parents asked why the Wi-Fi wasn't working, and I said I forgot to pay it since I was so busy looking for apartments. Gabby couldn't do her homework, and my parents had to use their phone hotspots. Then, the streaming services started shutting off one by one. Netflix, Hulu, Disney+, all gone. My dad asked why, and I said I was cutting expenses to save for moving. Gabby complained she couldn't watch her shows. Too bad. I stopped cooking dinner completely. When my mom asked what we were eating on my nights, I said I already ate at work since I wasn't really family anymore. I also stopped buying groceries. The fridge started looking pretty empty since my parents only shopped for themselves and apparently forgot I used to buy half the food. Gabby started complaining about not having her favorite snacks. Then I got really petty. I started taking 4-hour showers right when Gabby needed to get ready for school. I'd play music until 2 a.m. on weeknights when Gabby had tests. I'd take work calls in the living room during her study time. My parents kept asking me to be considerate, and I'd remind them I was leaving soon anyway, so what did it matter? 2 weeks in, my parents were stressed. Gabby was cranky from lack of sleep and bad internet. She started snapping at them about the food situation and how the house was chaotic. She actually told my mom that maybe they should have thought things through before kicking me out. My mom tried to explain that I wasn't kicked out, just encouraged to move on. Gabby laughed and said that was the same thing. Then the mortgage payment came. My parents realized they had been budgeting with my rent money included. Without it, things were tight. Really tight. My dad asked if I could cover 1 more month while they figured things out. I said no. I needed that money for my new place. He got upset and said, "Family helps family." I reminded him that Gabby was their family now, not me. By week 3, things were getting more tense. Gabby had been breaking down more often. She missed her friends, hated the chaos at home, and felt guilty about taking my room. One night, she finally told my parents she wanted to go live with her aunt, 2 states away. My parents panicked. They had already told everyone about how they had adopted this perfect daughter, and now it was starting to fall apart. Gabby leaving would make them look terrible. That night, my parents came to my room, practically begging me to stay. My mom started talking first, her voice shaky and uncertain. She kept wringing her hands together and wouldn't look me in the eye. "We made a huge mistake," she said. She went on about how they didn't realize how much I actually did around the house until everything started falling apart without me. The Wi-Fi being gone, no food in the fridge, no one cooking dinner, it all hit them at once. Dad jumped in before she could finish, admitting that they had gotten so focused on Gabby's achievements that they had completely missed how their treatment was pushing me away. He actually admitted that they got caught up in Gabby's success because it felt good to have a daughter who fit their expectations. He said he knew that was wrong and unfair to me. I noticed Gabby standing in the doorway behind them, looking absolutely miserable, her arms wrapped around herself. She said this whole situation was her fault for moving in and messing everything up. She told my parents she never wanted me to leave and actually looked up to me for being independent and having my own life figured out. That hit me. Gabby was just a kid who had lost everything and had been thrust into this situation without any control. She wasn't my enemy. The real problem was the way my parents had treated us both differently, and how they had completely disregarded me for so long. I was the one who had been there for them, keeping the house running, and yet they had acted like I was disposable. My parents practically fell over themselves, begging me to stay. They promised things would be different this time and even offered to lower my rent by $200 a month. My mom said I could have all my responsibilities back without any more comparisons to Gabby. She even suggested family therapy to work through the adjustment issues the right way. I sat there, listening to all three of them beg. It was almost satisfying, but also exhausting, watching them panic like this. I told them I needed time to think about their offer and reminded them that their promises didn't mean much after they literally tried to kick me out. The look on their faces when I said that was almost worth the past 3 weeks of chaos. The next morning, I called Nain, my friend from work, and explained the situation. She listened to everything and then surprised me by saying her husband, Mitchell, worked in property management. She said he might have leads on affordable apartments if I decided to move out for real. I met with Mitchell that same afternoon at a coffee shop downtown. He showed me listings for places within my budget. When I saw one-bedroom apartments with decent rent prices, it became real. Moving out wasn't just a threat anymore, it was a real option. That evening, Gabby knocked on my door. She asked if we could talk privately. She sat on the floor with her back against the wall, looking at me with wide eyes. Gabby told me how miserable she had been since moving in. She had lost everything when her mom died, and now she felt like she was ruining my life too, just by being here. Her voice cracked when she said it, and I could tell she had been crying earlier. "I never asked to be compared to you all the time," she admitted. "I thought you were way cooler than me because you have your life figured out. The constant praise from mom and dad made me uncomfortable because I knew it came at your expense." I softened toward her. Gabby was just a grieving kid who had been thrown into this complicated situation. She had no control over how things were unfolding. I told her this wasn't her fault. My issues were with my parents, not her. She seemed so relieved when I said that, like a huge weight had been lifted from her shoulders. The next morning, I woke up to a knock on my door before my alarm even went off. It was my parents. My dad handed me some papers. He asked if we could talk. I sat up in bed while they came in and positioned themselves like they were about to give a presentation. Dad handed me 3 printed pages with bullet points and highlighted sections. The first page outlined a new rent amount that was $200 less than what I had been paying before. The second page listed all the bills they would take over, including internet, streaming services, and utilities. The third page had promises written out like a contract about stopping comparisons between Gabby and me. At the bottom of the last page, my dad had added a handwritten note saying he'd handle all the yard work from now on so I could have my weekends free. I read through everything twice while they waited. My mom kept wringing her hands, and my dad stood there with his arms crossed, looking hopeful. I set the papers down on my nightstand and looked at both of them. I told them their proposal missed the entire point of why I was upset in the first place. They offered me money and chores like that was the problem, but the real issue was how they had made me feel like I didn't matter in my own home. I said I didn't care about paying less rent or having more free time if they were still going to treat me like I was worthless compared to Gabby. My mom started to interrupt, but I kept going. I told them the problem wasn't something they could fix with a written agreement. The real issue was that they had spent weeks making me feel replaceable and disposable after I had been helping them for 2 years. I said they took everything I did for granted, and then acted like Gabby was this amazing gift while I was just taking up space. Dad opened his mouth to respond, but nothing came out at first. My mom's face crumpled, and she started crying right there in my doorway. She sat down on the floor with her back against the wall and put her face in her hands. "I got so excited about Gabby's grades and college plans," she sobbed. "I always wished you had been more ambitious in school." Her voice cracked when she admitted that watching Gabby study for medical school made her feel like she was finally getting the daughter she had imagined having. She looked up at me with tears running down her face. "I know how terrible and unfair that is," she said. Dad knelt down next to her and put his hand on her shoulder. "We took advantage of how easygoing you were," he said. "We assumed you would always just go along with whatever we decided. Watching you cut off all your support and stand up for yourself made me realize we raised you better than we treated you." My mom wiped her eyes and said she understood if I wanted to leave. "You deserve better," she said. At that moment, I realized just how much they had taken me for granted, but also how genuine their apology was. The next morning, I received a call from Mitchell. He had found an apartment that had just become available, and it was within my budget. The place had been recently renovated and was ready for move-in. It sounded perfect. I could move out and truly start fresh. It felt like a huge step forward. But at the same time, I couldn't help but feel the weight of everything that had happened in the last few weeks. The house had started to feel like a battleground, but I also had a deep history here. Leaving was a huge decision. I went to work that day with a sense of quiet confidence, but my mind kept drifting back to the conversation I'd had with my parents the night before. They had admitted their mistakes, and I could see they were genuinely trying to make things right. My mom's apology had been so specific, so heartfelt. But I knew that actions speak louder than words. I wasn't ready to make a decision yet, but I had to seriously consider all my options. Later that afternoon, Gabby came to my room again. She asked if we could talk, and we ended up sitting on the floor for another heart-to-heart. This time, it was different. Gabby was finally starting to open up about her struggles, her own grief, and the pressure of living up to the expectations my parents had set for her. She admitted she had felt like she was ruining everything by being here and taking my place. "I never asked to be compared to you," she said, her voice quieter now, softer than before. "I thought you were so much better at everything than me. You have your life together, and I'm just trying to figure things out." I looked at her and smiled softly. "You're not the problem, Gabby. The problem is how things got so out of balance. This wasn't your fault." She let out a long breath and nodded, a small, relieved smile forming on her lips. For the first time, I felt like we were on the same side, and maybe that could be the foundation for a new kind of relationship. Not one built on competition or guilt, but mutual respect. That night, when I returned home from work, I found a note from my parents in the kitchen, alongside a fully stocked fridge. They had gone shopping, filled the pantry with food, and even bought some of my favorite snacks. It was their way of showing they were taking responsibility, that they appreciated the things I had been doing all along. It was a small gesture, but it meant a lot. The house was quieter now. Gabby had begun spending more time in her room, doing her homework, and my parents had stopped hovering over her, giving her space to figure things out on her own. I noticed them making an effort to acknowledge the things I did, not just the big things like paying rent or cooking dinner, but the little things too. The way I handled the yard work without complaint, the way I'd always been there for them. It felt like they were finally starting to see me, truly see me, for the first time in a long while. I wasn't sure what the future held, but for the first time in weeks, it felt like things were slowly, but surely, moving in the right direction. The weekend came, and I went to the apartment that Mitchell had found for me. The building was older but charming, with tall windows that let in a lot of light. The one-bedroom unit had been recently renovated with beautiful hardwood floors and modern appliances. It was perfect for me. For the first time in a while, I felt a real sense of excitement. This could be my new beginning. I walked around the apartment, imagining my furniture, my belongings filling the space. It was small but cozy, and most importantly, it was mine. As I stood on the balcony, looking out over the quiet street below, it hit me. This was the next step. This was what I had been working towards all along. But when I got home that night, my parents were waiting for me. They had been anxiously waiting to hear what I thought of the apartment. I told them I loved it, but I wasn't ready to make a decision just yet. They both nodded, and there was an unspoken understanding in the room. It wasn't just about the apartment or the rent. It was about the change, the shift in how we had been relating to each other. "Take your time," my dad said. "We'll support you, whatever you decide." The following week, I had another conversation with my parents. I told them I would stay, but only if we could continue to work on things. I set clear boundaries. First, family therapy would continue. Second, no more comparisons between me and Gabby. Third, the rent I had been paying would continue, and I would no longer be expected to subsidize their mortgage without recognition. Finally, I wanted a formal agreement to protect my rights as a tenant, including the ability to leave with 30 days' notice if things went back to the way they had been. To my surprise, my parents agreed to everything without hesitation. They were serious about making things right. We signed a new rental agreement, and my mom immediately scheduled another therapy session. Things were different now. I could feel it in the way they looked at me, the way they interacted with Gabby. They were actually trying this time, not just paying lip service. As the weeks went by, our family dynamic shifted. Gabby started opening up more. She was less guarded, less focused on being perfect. She admitted that she had felt an immense amount of pressure, but now, she was starting to realize that she didn't need to be perfect to earn our parents' love. My parents stopped comparing us, and there was more space for both of us to exist without competition. One night, my mom even hugged me and thanked me for sticking around. "I know we've made mistakes," she said. "But we're learning. I'm just so glad you're still here." The therapy sessions continued, and I saw real growth. The therapist helped us understand that our grief, our expectations, and our misunderstandings had been weighing on all of us. But now, we were learning how to communicate better, how to respect each other's needs, and how to give each other space without feeling threatened. It wasn't perfect, but it was progress. A few months later, I decided I was ready to start looking for a home to buy. My savings had grown, and I had a solid foundation in place, both financially and emotionally. I had built new boundaries with my parents, and my relationship with Gabby had transformed. We were no longer just family by circumstance, we were learning to be family by choice. The decision to stay at home had given me the time I needed to build up my career, my savings, and my confidence. It wasn't easy, but I was finally in a position where I felt ready to step out on my own. I found a small house just outside the city, and it was everything I had been looking for. It had a cozy living room, a spacious kitchen, and even a small garden where I could finally grow the herbs I'd always wanted. The day I signed the papers, my parents came with me to help me move in. Gabby even showed up to offer her support, joking about how she was going to take over my guest room whenever she needed a break. For the first time, there was no tension. We worked together, laughed together, and celebrated this new chapter in my life. As we sat on the floor that evening, eating pizza and making plans for the next family dinner, I felt a sense of peace that I hadn't felt in a long time. The chaos had finally settled. The pain had turned into healing. And, for once, I knew I had made the right choice for myself. The road ahead was still uncertain, but one thing was clear: I had found my strength, my voice, and my place in this family. And that was more than enough. Thank you for watching the video. Like it if you watched the video to the end, and don't forget to subscribe. Have a nice day.